Hello and welcome to an explanation, a lecture, if you will, based on the second half of the semester, our new focus on research and text analysis. And textual, it'll be called sometimes. When I think of text, typically Comp 2 will focus on advertising or literature or a piece of text from biology, sociology, and one of the other disciplines. My goal in this activity was to, as curriculum for this semester, is both divergent and convergent. Convergent goals and divergent interests. So we all want to work together. We're going to collaborate. But I want you to be able to bring your own personality, your own interests to the lesson plan. Now, you can do your own thing only if you tether your ideas to the research goals and objectives of the class. But our class research determined research topics are China and or sustainability. I've done research projects on both of these in the past, and I've got material to share. We build on that. We create a richer student-generated form of sample texts and research. And we use these two topics. We go with we can look for themes of gender, race, or, for example, using critical theories such as feminism, queer theory, post-colonialism, Asian representation in Western literature, economics, or historicism. Notice a lot of isms, which are basically philosophies. We're doing science. Philosophy is the love of knowledge. We're doing science, but we're thinking about it. These isms, they're all lenses through which you can look at things. They help you see more clearly, though they do add a bias. And as long as you acknowledge your bias and you're upfront about it, that's totally okay. Why are we going to do this? Well, number one, in college, professors expect you to think about and synthesize seemingly unrelated topics, so it's fair game. But it's unrelated to you. These are all related to me. This exploits my passions and my areas of expertise. I happen to know something about China and sustainability, particularly in regards to the environment, agriculture, botany, animals. And I know something about the literature that I'm sharing, and I know something about, find a way in the future when you're taking classes. Find out what your instructor's an expert on and exploit them. For one thing, if you do research and you go to the library and you find something they wrote and you read it and you cite them in a paper, you're probably going to get a better grade. At least that's what I was told. And my grades did improve when I started doing that kind of thing. Another reason is anchoring student interest to shared themes makes plagiarism or recycling papers less likely. I know some of you have written amazing research papers in high school and you don't see why you can't turn that in again. I need to test, and we need to demonstrate and assess your ability to do research. And we're going to use a library and library databases, and you're going to learn about what the databases are. You're going to learn about, we're going to talk about credibility and validity and reliability when it comes to research, and we're going to talk about the scientific method. There's a coupon cartoon here, links to my blog. I hope you read this already, but the scientific method is basically how you do research. And this one's cool. I like using cartoons to teach things that might be boring. The Duke University Law put together a copyright and you bound by law. It takes a while to load. But this is really pretty good, and it's dead on. It's not the law school put it out, but it's worth looking into. That's actually fair copyright. And why China? Why sustainability? Somebody said that last semester. Why do I have to read about China? Why should I? Why should I learn about China? Well, in brief, number one, that's where the money is. Scholarships and grants. There are scholarships, full ride scholarships overseas. Study abroad. Only place that pays for your tuition and books and food is the China grant in Xi'an. We have a sister school arrangement. You really ought to check that out. I get grants for doing research on China and sustainability. and you can get grants there too. Both are unavoidably linked to our future. I'm not going to read this to you. I hope you'll come back and read this slideshow on your own and check out the links as well. But follow these links, read them. My other classes have been doing the same things around this theme. We can build on what we've created. I've got examples of some of this stuff to show you. One of the things I like to do is find ways to access short literature. Now, you can look at short stories if you want. I'm not going to make everyone read short stories, but back when it used to be, Comp 2 was all about literature, which was kind of fun because at least there were fun stories, but a lot of people don't like reading short stories or literature. So it's just one of the possible tracks, but I do have the Yellow Wallpaper, which was the proto-feminist story, short story and there's one reading of it, and then the research that I will give you another lecture about applying current goals and objectives to the Yellow Wallpaper in the short literature. And the thing is, I've done. So I'm going to give you it's going to be kind of like one of those pick your own stories, choose your own adventure stories. That's how we're going to do our research project. If you look at the syllabus short form, this is tentative. I will adjust this. I will choose dates later this week, and I'll try and get a scan of that up. The numbers could change a little bit. I don't know. And I can add rows to this, but we will do at the very minimum tentative thesis research questions later on. We're going to get documents, at least 2 from Greener database, 2 from the JSTOR database. Basically, you're going to demonstrate. You're going to find these things. You're going to turn them in, and that'll demonstrate these, that you know where to go to get these. Textbooks are books that are text. They don't have to be actual class textbooks. From the library, if you are not, or you do not have access to a campus library, if you're overseas or taking this class online from someplace other than Johnson County, do you have access to a public library? Because you'll need to go to a library. And if you don't have access to a library, email me, and let's get talking about that soon. Towards the end of the semester, we'll do 3 short rough drafts, which is funny because that's kind of what I saw a lot on the papers. I will be getting essays back to you soon. I've read them all. I've commented on them all. I'd like you to all go up on Turnitin and download the PDF with my comments and listen to the audio files. And I'll be filling out the rubrics with grades this week. But I want to make sure you access that. This current semester, I'm going to be using as examples when I do research online to show you. I'm going to walk you through and show you how to use JSTOR, show you how to do this, use that. I'm going to share my current research obsession, which started from popular culture, an animated cartoon, an adult animated cartoon, which is a parody of the animated cartoons of my youth. And I have taken a few clips. If you decide to do a video, it has to be video I have access to. So it's got to be available free online on YouTube, like Rikki Tikki Tavi, 23 minutes. Excellent. Chuck Jones animation, amazing, from 1976. If you haven't watched it with your kids, you should. This is a short story by D.H. Lawrence that Freudian analysis is a bad name to me. And Poison is one of the most famous short stories by Roald Dahl, the guy that wrote Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Yeah, this is one of his most famous short stories. And they all have something in common. It's really brilliant. I've got 4 clips, 2 4-minute clips, 1 1-minute clip. I'm not. I would like you to check out ASAP this week. I want you to watch those 4 clips. I want to talk about them and about how this relates to literally my life and our goals and objectives. And how I'm going to give you an example of how you can bring in your own research interests and tie them to the class goals and objectives. Now, this is where I used to live when I was between 97 and 2000. I lived in Taiwan for 5 years, starting in 95. But for 3 years, I lived in the jungle on the side of a mountain in Taiwan. There's one story I've written about it, and if you follow the link to my blog, I wrote a real brief summary of it where I had to kill a bamboo viper. I had read a story before going to Taiwan about a bamboo viper, and they called it a 2-step snake, or the 2-step snake, and because it's so poisonous. And something about tropical jungles just breeds some super poisonous stuff. The weird Ama, the little lady next door, swore that was a poisonous snake and I had to kill it, or I wasn't a real man. And kill it I did. That's a funny story I won't tell you about. This I found on my front doorstep. Gruesome. Why did you take a picture of a roadkill, Greg? It was right in front of my house, right outside the gate. And what is it? Does it look similar to this, the mini banded crate? Well, look at the other picture from Wikipedia that's a mini abandoned crate that's alive, and this is the one that was squished outside my house. Yeah, I think it's the same. It's not as quite as vibrant in color, but being dead and run over 4 or 5 times by trucks will do that to you. I lived in an area with a lot of crates. I cut bamboo, dead bamboo, one day. That's another long story that I'll save for another day, but I had one just almost run over my wrist. Don't cut dead bamboo, for one thing. And if you're going in the jungle, wear boots, wear long pants, wear long sleeves, and wear gloves. In fact, don't go in the jungle. But some of you that have to, I'll go back. But yeah, I'll wear long pants and long shirts. This is the last one. All right. Well, I'm going to talk about research this week. I'm going to give you some homework I'm going to exploit you as collaborators on a research project, and we're going to look up things relevant to this clip right here, the scene with the snake from this cartoon. It's 4 minutes long. I'd like you to watch the first 2 to kind of get the cast of characters. They're from cartoon characters. I think there's a lot of things to talk about in this clip, in any of these clips, including misogyny and sexism and Asian representations in American art. There's some stereotypes, and there's also drug addiction, and there's a slight reference to the sex trade. Now, there's an alternate plot to the plot I show you. All these 3 clips are like one of 2 plots that are woven throughout this particular episode. I don't talk about the story arc that involves Gary Glitter. If you like professional football, there's a lot of ladyboys and references to Thailand, which is also relevant to my dissertation and funding, and the Asian references in American work. But Gary Glitter is referenced, and he was the artist who created that song that NFL football used for a long time. You know, I think it might be Rock and Roll Part 2. I keep thinking of it as a Doctor Who song. Anyway, NFL cut ties with him after they found out, that reference in the cartoon to buying little children in Thailand and using them for the most evil of purposes. Yeah, that was an English dude. Slavery and the sex trade. Well, slavery is one of my... I had a student once, one of my favorites, made a comment once about, well, we don't have slavery anymore. Slavery doesn't exist. And the truth is it does. It's most commonly and clearly represented in sex trade. And it really does exist. Humans are cheaper than they ever have been, and there's a lot of people tied up in the slave trade. If you consider trapped in sexual servitude and the sex trade, brothels, that kind of thing, yeah. And that's another tie-in to the Super Bowl, actually. If you've ever done it, every year when the Super Bowl comes out, there's research that comes out or on the media talk about how thousands and thousands will follow the Super Bowl and how gearing up to that, the sex trade just goes nuts. But if you're interested in professional football, you should watch it, or the sex trade, or ladyboys from Thailand, or androgynous representations in a spoof of Tolkien. I encourage anybody who's interested, everyone really, I would encourage to buy Season 4, Episode 46. It costs $2 on iTunes, and we can talk about cartoons in this class. And I love cartoons. They're a guilty pleasure, but the thing is, you can learn from them. One thing my mom taught me was you can learn from anything you read, and I think cartoons are way underappreciated.